Hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet subscribed. Thank you very much. So what we want to do now is to display our tests from a specific student. So if we go to their tests area, this is what we get, but we don't want to show things here. We want them to show up here. So let's fix that real quick. So I'm on my in my controllers, profile controller, and this is the part where if the tab is tests, then we do this right here. And then finally we show the tests. Now instead of doing all this, I just want to create a variable in the data like so. So I will do this and equate that to tests. Now instead of just putting a random variable here, what I want to do is let me check what this expects, because if I go to, let me open in another one here. If I go to tests, I want this section to respond accordingly, so I need to see what's inside tests view. So let's go to the views here, and this tests view. So test view is referencing tests itself. Okay, tests include. So test include is this, and it's expecting rows. Okay, not very good though, because row is also used in other places, like the profile, it uses row. So it's just going to replace in case I need to use it further down the line. But the advantage of this is that row is being created right here, so we can always change it to something more suitable. So these are tests, right? So let me change all references to row except this one, but I'll edit it back. I don't want to start selecting again. Let me use a row like this. I'll just put a there, or to be very specific, you can just say test row, because these are tests anyway. So let me remove that one there to leave it at rows. So just to see that I haven't broken anything here, I'll refresh and no errors. That's good. Okay, so then we can use this back in the profile without risks. So the same way it is being used here, I will copy this, and wait a minute, it's looking for rows. Okay, so let me copy that, come to the profile, and here I'll just say rows. Luckily the profile is just row and not rows, so it will still work, though we should have used let me put test rows like this. It's more future proof. Yeah, so right here I will change this to reflect test rows as well, underscore like this, and then I'll go to because now I'll create a problem here. If I refresh, it will be a problem, but if I go back to tests, then I can fix that problem down here. Instead of expecting rows here, it's going to be test rows like that. That should solve our problem. Anywhere else we're expecting rows? No. Okay, so that works. If I now refresh, we are back in business. All right, so now I can paste where is the profile tab? So there's profile tab tests right here. So right under this, I'll paste there like so. Okay, so that should display tests. Let me go back here. I have another one open here. I'll refresh. Okay, and just like that, we have our content here. This is the advantage of modular design, where you put chunks and small pieces in separate files This makes them very reusable. So the same code we're using here is what we are using on this section right here. Now the thing is, I want to be able to have a button here instead of the edit and delete, which is rightfully so here. We shouldn't be able to edit and delete here except from the classes themselves. I want to add take this test so that the student can click and say take this test, and then they take the test. And then that button should not be available on a test that they already took. So at least that will help the student know what test they have taken and what they haven't. So we need a way to be able to know this. Whether we are on this page, it should still work, or whether we're on this page, it should still work as well. So we will need a function to give us that kind of information. So let's go to functions. Now you can create all kinds of functions that you want. Let's create one that says, I don't know what we can call it. Function can underscore take tests, just so it's more descriptive of what we want. Can take tests. So because it starts with a something like can or is, then you know the returning value is either true or false. So let's always return false to begin with. True should be a special case. So here we're returning false, right? So if we return false, then nothing to do. But before we can fix this function, let's put the button right here. So we're going to go back to tests inc, and right in here, because we already have the table row here for action, so let's put this in the table data down here. So I'm just going to put let's call it a button. Oops, that is definitely not a button. Take test, or we can just say take this test. We are not running out of words, are we? So class button small and button primary should do the trick. Let's see here. Right, take this test. So you can click on these to take the test. That is if you haven't taken it yet. So right here we will put a question mark, and I'll do PHP like this, and then ask the question, can take test. Oh my god, can take test. Don't forget it's a function, like so. So we need an if statement, obviously. So we're going to say if can take test. So if can take test, then allow user to click to take test. We're going to use the if can take test quite a bit. So right now it should say false, so we shouldn't see these. Yeah, they are gone as predicted. Now we need to give it conditions so that it can come back and tell us, now you can take the test, right? So the first thing we need to do is copy stuff from here. So back to the profile.php, the controller there, right here where we're saying if tests, and then we have all this code down here. We have all this code down here, and let's copy all of this, right? Because this is how we can know whether you can take the test. Now, what qualifies you to take a test is if like for example here, we are returning all the tests that belong to this particular student, right? The ones that he's eligible. So we know that the result of this, if the particular test that we are running here, that we are checking for, is in here as well, then we know that this user can take the test. So before I forget, let me paste this data here. So we're just going to paste all this right here, And of course we'll get some errors because some variables here are undefined, but let's see how we can fix that. And before we do that, let's go back to the tests inc itself here, and we must tell us can take test because it has to know what test we are talking about, right? So let's use the test row and get its ID. So we want the test ID like so. So we supply the test ID, and to know whether the currently logged in user can take that test. So we don't need to supply the user information because it's always in the session if you're logged in. So we just need to know the test we're talking about, and then we can improvise. So right about here, we need to know the rank. If this person is not a student, then definitely they can't take the test, right? So if rank is equal to, let's say, student, okay, maybe we can use auth here. Let me go back to profile. Let me see wherever I used auth. So auth access reception, that's more consistent. So let's do the same thing. Let's just say, because we can change, maybe we're not using the rank anymore, it's better to do it this way. So student. So this is only for students. So if not, let's put a not there like this. So we don't need any other type of person. So table is always my class students. This other one is irrelevant. All we're going to do here is return false. So if not student, but this is weird. Actually, this won't work very well because access student means access everyone. So we have to be very specific about the rank here. So I see where we can have a problem here. So let's get the content anyway from the auth, because remember in the auth we have a way to get stuff by just saying get. So I want to get rank like so. It's a function. So if auth get rank is not, if I don't want to put this here, I could put that there. If it's not a student, then return false. This way, anyone who's not a student will always be ineligible to write any tests. So there we go. So class, this will work. So let's find some more variables that cannot work here, because what exactly is ID here, right? So we are looking for the user ID, right? And this is the ID right there. So instead, let's get this right there, because we are getting all this from the currently the user that is logged in. So here the ID is this one. So that's the user, what is it called? It's user ID, is it? Let's go back to users here for a second. Yes, it is user ID. So I'll copy that, and that's what I need here. So I'm going to paste that and get user underscore ID. That should get me the ID. So all this is getting from the currently logged in user. And what else? Let's look at more. What is a row in this case? Okay, that's part of the for each loop, so that's fine. And do that here, and do that, and do that. Okay, pretty cool. What I want now is just to show the result of this. That's it. Let's say show tests. I just want to see if it's showing me the correct info at the end of the day. So back here, even here is fine. Let's refresh. Okay, what's happening? Take a test, can take test. Wait a second, what is going on? if can take test, yes, can take test here. So maybe the result is empty. Let's use var dump, because if the result is false, we won't see it with this. And no, I still can't see it. But why? Let's see here. Table data. It's completely empty. So what's going on here? Anyway, we have problems here, but so far we've done our job. Let's fix the issue in the function in the next video. I'll see you then.